this was not what you thought a number of months ago. So what changed?
Look, I mean, we've talked about autonomous, deregulatory. That was the bull case, and that continues to be, because autonomous is going to be the key for Tesla. But John, no one, including us, expected that Trump. When you look at Trump, Musk would essentially be living in Mar-a-Lago, living at the White House, 110% in Doge, and this has been, I think, clock struck midnight. I mean, this is now at a point where it's a tipping point where Musk needs to focus back on Tesla. And that's why I say it's a moment of truth. We've been here before, but this is, I think, tipped the scales, and we're seeing it in the stock.
You're right to say we've been here before, because we have, Dan. We used to talk about this with regards to SpaceX, that he was leading loads of different companies. It wasn't a problem then. Why is it a problem now? What's happening at Tesla that says to you it's missing its boss?
Well, it's because of brand. Because the last thing that you want is Tesla to become a political symbol, viewed as Doge or Trump or whatever you want to say. And that we've already seen, whether it's demonstrations and some of the concerns and some of the protests that we've seen globally. Look, that could all fade, and that's still contained at this point. It's the best car, and in terms of best car selling last year in 2024, Model Y. The issue now is they have the biggest sort of technology innovation ahead when it comes to FSD, unsupervised Austin, a new model coming out in the summer. What I ultimately believe is really the start of this whole robotics and autonomous future. But now you need Musk to lead. It's time to come home and start to focus back on Tesla. And that's been a huge issue here. Investors have given, sort of some flexibility. But now it's hit a tipping point. I think you've seen it in the stock. Frustration's building.
You said it's time to come home, Dan, and we heard from Elon Musk saying that he's going to be with the Doge effort for at least another year, or about another year. Is that enough, or does that make you think that you need to downgrade your outlook?
Yeah, at least I'd be surprised if that happened. In other words, my view is that I think he's going to have to see the writing on the wall. Look, we've been here, but we've talked about this, whether it was SpaceX, whether it was Twitter. We go back to other issues, 2018, 19. I think he's going to start to get the message. Now, look, it could take some time, but I believe this is when he's going to have to start to balance his time. He could still be focused on Doge. You have to be CEO of Tesla at this point. And look, Trump buying a Tesla, I mean, it's not moving the needle. And to some extent, it actually have a negative impact relative to the political symbol. And I think that's the frustration here, when it comes to Musk and Tesla.
Dan, less than a month ago, you said the best is yet to come. You said you think it's going to be a bet for the ages in terms of Musk on Trump. When it comes to autonomous, it's worth trillions of dollars. That continues to be the golden goose, and it's what they're focused on. You thought his proximity of power was going to unleash this epic demand for Tesla. What happened?
Well, look, I mean, medium and long term, it's that. In other words, autonomous is the future. I believe the federal autonomous roadmap will be there, and that ultimately, all of this would actually just be noise relative to what could happen in terms of what that means. That's worth $1 trillion of the story. And that's why I think this is probably the biggest sort of physical AI play out there. But that said, this near-term situation is unsustainable. And I think no one expected that he would dive so into the deep end of the pool when it comes to Doge. That's where he's spending all of his time, always in Mar-a-Lago, always the White House. And I can tell you from Tesla shareholders, it's at a point where white flag's up. He needs to change, needs to balance. Otherwise, everything we talked about, autonomous, bet for the ages, this negative, the brand issues, that then starts to actually taint some of the long-term impact. That's our concern here, and that's why we're really communicating that to Tesla and the board.
Dan, I have to be honest. I don't think I've ever heard you this as unenthusiastic about a U.S. tech stock ever. I mean, next time we see you, you might be wearing a black suit. I'm just wondering, can you look back in your history of calls and ever felt this uncertain about a name that you were quite enthusiastic about just a couple months ago?
Oh, we did it with Tesla during the Twitter situation. We've done it with Tesla. If I go back 2018, 19, sometimes it's tough love, right? I mean, Tesla is probably one of the names we're most bullish on in all of tech. And I continue to believe, tech is way oversold. But you got to speak out, because when I talk to thousands of investors around the world, I need to communicate what I believe Musk needs to do now for that long-term story to play out. And that's what needs to happen. Silence just can't happen. You can't be glass half full. Given the situation, what's happening here with Doge and some of the brand issue and the worry about distractions and where he needs to be focused on his efforts.
Dan, to Lisa's point, you don't sound like a man with a 550 price target on a stock that trades at 230. So, Dan, what gets us to 550?
You get through this period, he starts to get more dialed in Tesla, and then, John, we're sitting there in the summer. That sort of golden case is there in terms of autonomous, FSD, unsupervised, and the long-term story. You got to get through this near-term turbulence to get to the gold at the end of the rainbow. Now's the time. It's a moment of truth. Musk needs to step up.
Just to understand your framework, if we get to the summer and nothing's changed, does your view change?
Look, if nothing changes from this on, then obviously brand issues would be a lot bigger, and that's something that could start to taint the story. I believe the longer term story continues to be this is going to be a $2-3 trillion market cap. But he needs to get through this period because this is not serving anyone well. And I think that's really the message from Tesla shareholders.